Have you ever noticed that some people can walk confidently across an uneven garden path, while others feel unsteady just stepping off a curb? Many assume the difference comes down to stronger muscles or younger knees, but the real explanation begins somewhere much deeper. Your balance is not controlled by a single part of your body. Instead, it is the result of an incredible team effort happening every second you're on your feet. Your eyes watch the world around you. Your inner ears sense movement and changes in direction. Your muscles and joints constantly report how your body is positioned. Even the bottoms of your feet are packed with tiny sensors that tell your brain exactly where you're standing. Think of it like a large orchestra. Every musician has a different instrument, but beautiful music only happens when everyone plays together. If one section becomes quiet, the performance suffers. If several stop playing altogether, the music begins to fall apart. Your balance works the same way. Every time you climb a staircase, this entire system comes alive. Before your foot even leaves the ground, your brain is already making predictions. It calculates how high to lift your leg, how much weight to shift onto the opposite foot, how tightly your muscles should contract, and how to prepare for the next step. All of this happens so quickly that you're completely unaware of it. Now imagine climbing 10 steps. With every single step, your body performs dozens of tiny adjustments. Your ankles bend just enough to keep you stable. Your knees absorb changes in pressure. Your hips shift to keep your center of gravity over your feet. Your eyes judge the distance to the next step, while your inner ears quietly confirm whether your head is moving smoothly or tilting too far. The remarkable part is that none of these systems work alone. They are constantly exchanging information, almost like a group of close friends talking nonstop. One says, "The ground is higher now." Another replies, "Shift your weight forward." A third adds, "Slow down slightly." Together, they keep you upright without requiring conscious effort. Most people never notice this conversation because it happens automatically. But here's where something surprising begins. When stairs gradually disappear from your daily routine, that constant conversation becomes quieter. Perhaps an elevator replaces the staircase at work. Maybe you move into a single-story home. Or perhaps your knees start bothering you, so you avoid stairs whenever possible. At first, nothing seems different. You still walk around the house, you still go shopping, you still feel independent. That's why this change is so easy to miss. The balance system doesn't suddenly stop working. It simply receives fewer opportunities to practice its most demanding skills. Think about learning a musical instrument. Missing one day of practice doesn't matter much. Missing a week may not seem like a problem either, but after several months, your fingers don't move with the same confidence. The music becomes slower and less precise, not because you've forgotten everything, but because you've stopped challenging the system that keeps the skill sharp. Your balance responds in much the same way. Stair climbing asks your body to handle changing heights, shifting weight, and constant adjustments. Flat floors, on the other hand, are wonderfully predictable. Every step is almost identical to the one before it. Your balance system doesn't have to work nearly as hard. Over weeks and months, your brain becomes accustomed to this simpler environment. The muscles still function, the joints still move, the nerves still send signals, but the teamwork isn't tested as often. And that's when the first signs begin to appear. Maybe you hesitate before stepping onto a curb. Maybe you instinctively reach for a handrail more often than you used to. Perhaps turning around quickly makes you feel just a little less confident. These changes usually arrive so gradually that people blame them on just getting older. But aging is only part of the story. The larger issue is that the body's balance system thrives on regular challenges. Like any remarkable ability, it becomes more efficient when it's used and less responsive when it's ignored. The encouraging news is that this process isn't necessarily permanent. The body has an impressive ability to adapt throughout life, even in your 60s and 70s. Giving your balance system safe opportunities to work can help keep those lines of communication active. So before we assume that feeling less steady is simply an unavoidable part of aging, we need to understand something important. Sometimes the body isn't asking for more strength. Sometimes it's simply asking for more conversation. When most people think about balance, they usually picture the legs. If I strengthen my thighs, my balance will improve. If I walk more, I'll be steadier. While strong muscles certainly matter, there's another part of the body quietly doing just as much work, your feet. In fact, your feet are constantly gathering information long before your muscles know what to do. Imagine walking into a dark room you've never seen before. You can't rely on your eyes very much, so you begin feeling your way around. Every small change under your feet tells you something. You notice whether the floor is smooth or rough, soft or hard, level or uneven. Your feet are doing exactly this every second you stand or walk. Hidden beneath the skin are thousands of tiny nerve endings. These sensors don't just feel pain or temperature. They also detect pressure, movement, texture, vibration, and how your weight is distributed across the sole of each foot. The moment your heel touches the ground, these sensors send an enormous amount of information to your brain. Most of the weight is on the left side. The surface is slightly tilted. Your toes need to grip a little more. Shift your weight forward. This communication happens so quickly that you're never aware of it. Think of your feet as reporters working for your brain. Every step, they send a new report. Everything is stable. Watch out, the ground is uneven. You're leaning too far. Time to adjust. Without these reports, your brain would be making decisions almost blindly. Now let's think about what happens on a staircase. Every step is different from the one before. Your foot has to land accurately on a narrow surface. Your ankle bends a little more than it does on flat ground. Your toes help push your body upward. Going down requires even greater precision because your body must control its weight instead of simply letting gravity do the work. Each stair creates a brand new challenge. As a result, the nerve endings in your feet stay busy. They constantly gather fresh information, sending rapid updates that help your brain improve its understanding of where your body is in space. Scientists call this proprioception, your body's ability to know where its parts are without looking at them. It's the reason you can touch your nose with your eyes closed. It's why you don't need to stare at your feet every time you walk across a room. It's also one of the most important ingredients of good balance. Now imagine replacing every staircase with an elevator. Instead of stepping onto surfaces with changing heights, you spend nearly all day walking across smooth, level floors. Your feet still send messages, but those messages become repetitive. Flat floor, flat floor, flat floor again. The brain no longer receives the variety of information it once did. Think of it like reading the same page of a book every day. Eventually, there's nothing new to learn. Your balance system is remarkably adaptable, but it also responds to what you ask it to do. If your daily movements become simpler, your brain becomes extremely good at handling simple movements. The downside is that it gets less practice dealing with unexpected situations. This is why some older adults feel perfectly steady while walking through their living room, but suddenly become uncertain when stepping onto a curb, walking across gravel, or climbing onto a bus. Their muscles may still be reasonably strong, their heart may still be healthy. The missing piece is often the quality of information reaching the brain from the feet. Another surprising fact is that this decline is usually gradual. No one wakes up one morning and says, "My feet stopped communicating." Instead, the changes appear little by little. You begin watching the ground more carefully. You hesitate before stepping onto uneven pavement. You naturally slow your pace. You look for something to hold on to when climbing steps. Most people assume these habits are simply part of aging, but often they're signs that the communication between the feet and the brain has become quieter because it hasn't been challenged often enough. The good news is that these sensors respond to use. Safe activities that require careful foot placement, such as climbing stairs when appropriate, walking on gentle slopes, practicing balance exercises, or even standing on different safe surfaces, encourage those nerve pathways to stay active. Every time your feet encounter a new challenge, they gather fresh information. Every new piece of information helps your brain make better decisions. And better decisions, made thousands of times each day, are what allow you to stay steady, confident, and independent as you move through life. The lesson is simple but powerful. Your feet aren't just carrying your body. They're constantly teaching your brain how to keep you standing. Here's something that surprises many people. When your balance starts becoming less reliable, the biggest change may not begin in your legs, your knees, or even your feet. It may begin inside your brain. That sounds strange at first because we usually think of the brain as something that only controls memory or thinking. But in reality, one of its busiest jobs is managing movement. Every time you stand up, take a step, turn around, or climb a staircase, Your brain is making thousands of tiny decisions without asking for your attention. Should you lean forward a little? Should your right foot move first? Should your ankle tighten because the ground feels uneven? Should your left leg support a little more weight? These decisions happen in fractions of a second. If you had to think about each one consciously, walking across a room would take several minutes. Fortunately, your brain has a remarkable ability to automate these tasks. Think about learning to drive a car. The first time you sat behind the wheel, everything required concentration. You had to think about the steering wheel, the mirrors, the pedals, the speed, and the traffic all at once. It felt overwhelming, but after years of driving, many of those actions happen almost automatically. Your brain became more efficient because it practiced. Balance works exactly the same way. The more often you challenge your body, the better your brain becomes at solving movement problems. Now let's return to stairs. Every staircase presents your brain with a new puzzle. How high is the next step? How much should the knee bend? Where should the body weight shift? How quickly should the other foot follow? As you climb, your brain constantly predicts what will happen next. Then, a split second later, it checks whether its prediction was correct. If something changes, a slippery step, a heavier shopping bag, or a slight stumble, it immediately adjusts. This continuous cycle of predicting, checking, and correcting is one of the reasons stair climbing is such powerful training for balance. Now imagine that challenge disappears. Instead of climbing stairs every day, you take elevators. Instead of walking on varied surfaces, you stay mostly on smooth, level floors. Your brain notices something important. It realizes life has become simpler. And the brain loves efficiency. In fact, one of the brain's favorite habits is conserving energy. Whenever it discovers a shortcut that still gets the job done, it happily takes it. Think about a hiking trail through a forest. If hundreds of people always choose the same easy path, that trail becomes wide and well-worn. The more difficult paths slowly become overgrown because no one uses them anymore. Your brain works in much the same way. The pathways you use every day become stronger and faster. The pathways you rarely use become less active. This doesn't mean they disappear. It simply means they aren't as ready when you suddenly need them. Imagine spending 6 months walking only on perfectly flat sidewalks. Then one day your grandchild runs toward you in the park. You quickly turn, step onto uneven grass, and reach out to catch them. Suddenly your brain has to perform movements it hasn't practiced very often. It has to process new information quickly. Adjust your posture, shift your weight, react before you fall. If those movement pathways haven't been challenged regularly, your reactions may be just a little slower, not dramatically slower, just enough to make you feel unsteady. That's one reason many falls happen during unexpected moments rather than ordinary walking. The body isn't prepared for surprise. Here's another fascinating fact. Your brain is constantly making predictions before you move. Long before your foot touches the next step, your brain has already estimated where that foot should land. If its prediction is correct, the movement feels smooth. If the prediction is wrong, the brain instantly makes corrections. The more varied your movements are, the better those predictions become. Stair climbing provides hundreds of opportunities every week for your brain to refine this skill. Without those opportunities, the predictions gradually become less accurate, not because your brain is failing, but because it hasn't been given enough practice. Think of a chess player. Someone who solves chess puzzles every day becomes faster at recognizing patterns, but if they stop playing for years, they don't forget the rules. They simply become slower at spotting the best move. Your brain behaves in a similar way with movement. It remembers how to balance. It simply becomes less practiced at doing it under challenging conditions. This is why many older adults say things like, "I don't know why I almost lost my balance. I've walked this route for years." It happened so quickly. Often the problem wasn't strength. It was that the brain had fewer opportunities to rehearse quick adjustments. The encouraging news is that the brain remains remarkably adaptable, even in later life. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, which simply means the brain can continue learning and building stronger pathways throughout life. It doesn't stop learning at 60, or 70, or even 80. Whenever you safely introduce new movement challenges, whether climbing stairs, practicing balance exercises, walking different routes, or simply changing your daily routine, you give your brain fresh problems to solve. Each challenge strengthens those movement pathways. Each successful adjustment teaches the brain something valuable. Little by little, the calculations become smoother. The reactions become quicker. Confidence begins to return. This is why maintaining balance isn't just about exercising your muscles. It's also about exercising your brain. Every careful step you take is a lesson. Every new movement is practice. And every bit of practice reminds your brain that staying balanced is a skill worth keeping sharp. Most people don't suddenly wake up one morning unable to keep their balance. The change is usually much quieter than that. In fact, it often begins with ordinary moments that seem too small to matter. You step out of your car and pause for just a second longer before standing. You hesitate before stepping off a curb. You instinctively reach for the kitchen counter while putting on your shoes. You hold the handrail a little tighter than you used to. None of these moments seem alarming by themselves. Most people simply shrug and say, "I'm getting older." But what if these small changes are actually your body trying to tell you something? To understand why this happens, imagine you're a skilled pianist. For years, your fingers moved effortlessly across the keys. Then one day, you decide to stop practicing. For a while, nothing seems different. You still remember every song. You can still play simple melodies. But after several months, the difficult pieces don't feel quite as smooth. Your fingers hesitate. The timing is slightly off. The skill hasn't disappeared, it has simply become less polished. Balance follows the same pattern. When you stop giving your body challenging movements, everyday tasks slowly begin to feel more demanding. Let's take something as simple as getting into a car. It sounds easy. But think about everything your body must do. You turn your body sideways. You stand on one leg for a brief moment. You lower yourself while controlling your weight. You avoid hitting your head. You pull your other leg inside. Your brain coordinates all of these movements in just a few seconds. Now imagine doing the same thing after months or years of avoiding activities that challenge your balance. Suddenly, that simple movement doesn't feel quite so automatic. You may find yourself holding onto the door, moving more slowly, or thinking carefully about each step. Another example is reaching for something on a high shelf. At first glance, this seems like an arm movement, but your entire body becomes involved. As you lift your arm, your center of gravity shifts backward, your ankles tighten, your hips make tiny adjustments, your stomach muscles engage, your feet subtly redistribute your weight to keep you from tipping over. Most people never notice any of this because the body performs these adjustments automatically until it becomes less practiced. Now think about stepping onto a curb. The curb may only be 6 inches high, yet your brain must judge the height accurately. Your knee must lift enough to clear the edge. Your foot must land securely. Your weight must shift forward without pulling you off balance. When these movements have been practiced through activities like stair climbing, they happen almost effortlessly. When they haven't, even a small curb can suddenly feel surprisingly challenging. Many older adults notice another situation: walking downhill. Oddly enough, going downhill is often harder than walking uphill. Why? Because gravity is helping pull your body forward. Instead of pushing yourself upward, your muscles must gently slow your descent. Your knees absorb extra force. Your ankles make constant adjustments. Your brain carefully controls your speed. This is almost identical to what happens when walking down stairs. If you've stopped practicing that kind of movement, downhill walking may begin to feel less comfortable. Perhaps you've experienced this yourself. You weren't afraid of the hill. You simply found yourself taking shorter steps, looking down more often, searching for something to hold on to. These are intelligent adjustments made by a brain that no longer feels completely confident in its balance calculations. Here's something many people don't realize. Balance isn't only about preventing falls, it's about reducing hesitation. Every time your brain feels uncertain, it slows your movement. That hesitation might last only half a second, but over time, those tiny pauses begin appearing more often. You pause before stepping over a garden hose. You stop before crossing wet pavement. You carefully think about turning around while carrying groceries. One hesitation becomes another, then another. Eventually, your world starts becoming a little smaller. Perhaps you decline an invitation because you're worried about unfamiliar stairs. You avoid walking through crowded places. You skip outings where the sidewalks are uneven. Not because you want to, because your confidence has quietly faded. This is one of the hidden costs of losing balance. It doesn't just affect your body, it affects your freedom. The remarkable thing is that this process often happens so gradually that people don't notice it until someone points it out. A family member might say, "You've become much more careful lately." Or, "Why don't you use the stairs anymore?" Only then do you realize how many small adjustments you've been making. The encouraging news is that hesitation isn't always permanent. The brain and body respond to practice. Each safe movement that challenges your balance reminds your nervous system how to react more smoothly. Each careful step helps rebuild confidence. Each successful movement teaches your brain that it is still capable. That's why maintaining balance isn't about performing dramatic exercises or pushing yourself beyond your limits. It's about continuing to give your body meaningful work to do. Because every ordinary movement, stepping into a car, climbing a curb, reaching for a shelf, or walking down a gentle hill, is actually a quiet exercise session for your balance system. And the more often that system is used safely, the more confidently it continues to serve you. The goal isn't simply to avoid falling. The goal is to keep moving through life with the confidence to say yes to the everyday moments that make life full and independent. After hearing everything we've discussed, you might be thinking, so, does this mean I need to spend hours climbing stairs every day? Not at all. In fact, one of the biggest misunderstandings about staying healthy after 60 is the belief that only intense exercise makes a difference. The human body doesn't always improve because of one big effort. More often it improves because of many small efforts repeated consistently. Think about brushing your teeth. No one expects a single 20-minute brushing session once a month to keep their teeth healthy. Instead, a few minutes every day make all the difference. Your balance system works in much the same way. It responds to regular practice far better than occasional bursts of activity. That's why something as ordinary as climbing a few flights of stairs, when it is safe and appropriate for your health, can become a valuable part of keeping your body prepared for everyday life. Notice the important phrase, safe and appropriate. If you have severe joint pain, serious heart disease, dizziness, or another medical condition, it's important to follow the advice of your healthcare provider before changing your routine. The goal is never to push through pain or take unnecessary risks. The goal is to keep your body engaged. Imagine two neighbors who are both 70 years old. One avoids every staircase, takes the elevator whenever possible, and spends most of the day on flat, predictable surfaces. The other doesn't train like an athlete. They simply choose the stairs when practical, walk around the neighborhood, carry groceries carefully, and stay physically involved in daily life. Neither person is competing. Neither is trying to break records. But after several years, their bodies may respond very differently. Why? Because one body continues receiving regular reminders. Lift your knees, shift your weight, adjust your posture, stay alert. The other body hears those reminders far less often. Remember, your body is always adapting. If you regularly ask it to solve movement problems, it becomes better at solving movement problems. If you stop asking, it gradually becomes less prepared. That's not punishment, it's simply how the body learns. Think of your balance like a language. If you speak a language every day, the words come easily. If you stop speaking it for several years, you don't completely forget it, but you hesitate. You search for words. Conversations become slower. Movement works the same way. The body remembers. It simply needs regular opportunities to stay fluent. This is one reason physical therapists often encourage older adults to continue performing everyday movements instead of avoiding them whenever possible. Not because these activities are difficult, because they're useful. Every safe stair climbed is another lesson for your brain. Every careful descent teaches your muscles to work together. Every step strengthens the communication between your feet, your joints, your inner ears, your eyes, and your brain. Together, they become a more confident team. Of course, stairs are only one piece of the puzzle. Balance also benefits from many other simple habits. Walking at a comfortable pace, standing up from a chair without using your hands when it's safe, practicing gentle balance exercises, stretching to maintain flexibility, keeping your leg muscles strong, looking after your vision and hearing, wearing supportive footwear. All of these habits work together. None of them are magic on their own, but together, they create something incredibly powerful. They help you stay independent, and perhaps that's the most important word in this entire discussion, independence. When people think about aging well, they often focus on living longer. But for many older adults, the real goal is something different. It's being able to visit friends without worrying about stairs. It's carrying your own shopping bags. It's walking through the park with your grandchildren. It's getting out of bed each morning knowing your body will support you. These moments don't make headlines, yet they shape the quality of everyday life. The wonderful thing about the human body is that it continues responding to care even later in life. Researchers have repeatedly found that older adults can improve strength, coordination, and balance through regular, appropriate physical activity. The body may not recover as quickly as it did at 25, but it never completely loses its ability to adapt. Every healthy choice sends a message. Every walk tells your muscles they're still needed. Every balance exercise reminds your brain to stay sharp. Every carefully climbed staircase keeps those communication pathways active. None of these actions need to be perfect. They simply need to be repeated. And that's encouraging, because it means protecting your balance doesn't require expensive equipment, complicated routines, or extraordinary athletic ability. It begins with ordinary decisions, choosing movement instead of convenience when it's safe, trusting your body enough to keep using it, giving your balance system small challenges instead of letting it grow quiet. So the next time you see a staircase, don't think of it as just a way to reach another floor. Think of it as an opportunity to remind your brain how to adapt, to remind your muscles how to cooperate, to remind your feet how to communicate, and to remind yourself that growing older doesn't mean giving up the ability to move with confidence. Because in the end, balance isn't really about stairs. It's about preserving the freedom to live life on your own terms for as long as possible.